Hi, I'm Matt, and in this video tutorial we are going to be looking at the Onion Amiga. So let me just pop this up so that you can see this. What we're looking at here is the actual Onion Amiga here, which is this much smaller board. And let me just put this into perspective for you. That's the size of a normal credit card, and if I put this behind, you'll then be able to see the actual physical dimensions of this board. It's absolutely tiny. Now underneath we do have the expansion board, and on this one I do have a USB drive as well. And in this little mini series what we're actually going to be doing is not only setting up the Onion Amiga, you're also going to need, if you want to follow along of course, you're also going to need a USB drive. You'll definitely need a USB lead because this is how we will be powering the Onion Amiga, and you'll notice that it's a micro USB on there. Let me just put that on the camera so you can see it. And also we've got a powered USB hub, brand doesn't matter, and we've also got a webcam as well, because what I'd like to do is not only show you the setup of the Onion Amiga, but also get it into like a mini practical application so that you've got something you can get going with. Now the best place for us to start is at the beginning. Now this is my personal journey, and I've done a load with the Arduinos. Okay, so there's a little Pro Mini there, 3.3 volts. We've got the good old Uno and a Ethernet shield, and we've also got a Mega as well. Now, personally, I've been and found that I've taken these to their absolute limit and beyond. Now, I was looking for an alternative, and that's when I stumbled across the Onion Amiga, and what a cool little board. So let me just run down the specs with you. Tell you what, let me grab the pencil for you and you can actually see. So what we've got on the actual board itself is 16 meg of RAM, DDR2 sat on the top, and we've got the main chip here which runs at 400 megahertz. Now let me just put that into perspective. I'm sure you know how fast the Arduino runs, 32 megahertz. Okay, so it's up and beyond, and also this runs something called OpenWRT, which is basically Linux. So yes, you have a full-blown operating system in something the third of the size of a credit card. It's absolutely crazy, and the potential in this device, in my opinion, absolutely crazy. So that's what we're going to be setting up during this series. Now you'll see on my desk that I've already got two set up here, and I've got some new ones here on the left, and that's what we're going to be setting up together. There is one other thing which you're going to need. Now this sounds really daft. You are going to need some tissue, so this will make more sense in a few moments time. So let me just fold this up. So you might want to just grab yourself a little bit of toilet paper or some card or thick paper, and that will make more sense in just a moment. So let's go and unbox. Actually, that's a relay expansion. Let's go and grab ourselves a brand new Onion Amiga. So if you haven't purchased one of these before, if you go across to store.onion.io, you'll be able to purchase one. You can grab them with the expansion dock for about $30. You'll see the size of the board. It's absolutely tiny, and again let me just put my little finger up to the side next to it and you'll see the size of it. So we've got the RAM chip here, we've got the actual processor here, we've got some surface mount components on here, we've got the aerial. So another important note here is that this device has Wi-Fi built in, so that's 802.11b, G and N, so that's up to 150 megabits per second built in. And also we've got 18 GPIO ports. Oh, and another really important note, this board runs on 3.3 volts, not 5 volts. Okay, so those of you which have fried Arduino boards in the past, come on, we've all been and done it, do go really careful with the voltage. But if you're going to be using the expansion dock, then it makes it very simple for you not to do that. Okay, so that's the Onion Amiga itself. It's absolutely tiny. So the possibilities on this, from remembering it runs a full Linux operating system, the potential in this is absolutely crazy. So there's our Onion Amiga. So let me just move some of these pieces out of the way and pop that on our board. Now I've also purchased the expansion dock at the same time, which I would strongly suggest you do too, because it makes hooking up the Onion Amiga an awful lot easier. So let's get this one unpackaged. And we'll just pause for a moment to look at the dock. And again, let me just grab my Costa card just to put this into perspective for you. As you can see, this is absolutely tiny. So even with the expansion dock, it's still smaller than the size of a credit card. On the expansion dock, we have a USB host or USB port here. We also have the mini USB port, and we use this port not only to provide power to the board and the actual Onion Amiga itself, but also we can then connect to it either using the Onion console or also via a COM port and so on and so forth. We also have a little reset switch here too. We have an on and off switch. I'm guessing that's the USB host controller, and a bit of noise filtering going on here as well. And we also have an inbuilt RGB LED, so red, green and blue, and any combination in between. The expansion dock makes it very easy for us to add in external components, or maybe to add on an expansion board like so. So you can see this one here where I've got a 3D printed case. You can add expansion boards on top, such as the relay expansion as well. Now, I did mention that paper, a little bit of tissue, and the reason for that is very, very simple, is that these top pins, they're really sharp. Now, I have quite rough hands at times, the amount of building work which I've been doing lately, but they're still very, very sharp. Now, just to get the orientation the right way round, you need the antenna to the front of the actual board itself. So let me just pop this up on your screen so you can see it nice and clearly. You need the antenna pointing to the front. So let's pop this down on a firm desk, making sure that we've got the pins lined up on both sides. And this is where that bit of toilet paper or piece of paper will come in handy, because pushing this in, especially the first time which you've been and done it, those top pins are very, very sharp. Now, I am just going to tease this in here. Once she goes, there we go, and we're hooked up. So that's now seated in really nicely, and a little bit of paper just helps, it saves your fingers, because those top pins there are very, very sharp indeed. Okay, just make sure you've got it nice and well seated on both sides. Now let's go and get this hooked up. It's really, really straightforward and you can't go wrong. So next, grab yourself a USB lead. So let me go and plug this in on the side like so, and let's go and get this powered in, like so. So you've just heard Windows here in the background pick that up, and we can see the onboard LED has been and come on. Now, in a few moments, you'll start to see, there she goes, the onboard LED blinking. Now, while it's blinking, that's this board booting up. Okay, so let me just pop this up on the screen so you can see what's happening. You'll see that the onboard LED just there is blinking. Once it finishes and stays on continuously, like it now has been and done, that's the board booted up, and this is where we can now go and connect to it. So let's jump across to the desktop, and that's where I'll catch up with you in a few moments time, and we'll go through the setup wizard for the Onion Amiga. So we've been jumped across to my desktop, and again I'll leave the webcam insert here as well so you can see that I'm not actually touching the actual device, or when I do you can see what I'm actually doing. Now, the easiest and the simplest way of setting up your Onion Amiga is to use the console. Now, to get to that is really, really straightforward. So I'm using Windows 10. Obviously, this would vary across different Windows versions. And of course, if you're using a Mac or another operating system, the connections will be slightly different, but the process is exactly the same. So let's click on our network, and excellent. You'll now see that we've got the Amiga, and in my case, you've got 0D69, but that number, those last 4 digits are unique to each Amiga device. So just going back to the webcam memo, the device number will be different from this one to the one which we're using right now. So don't panic if your numbers are slightly different. You'll also notice that it's an open network. That's great for us to get started. There's no passwords for us to remember just yet. So let's go and connect to this network and click on connect, and it'll take a few seconds for my desktop to connect to the Onion Amiga. Now once that's been connected, then connecting up to the Onion console. There's 2 ways which we can do it. We can go to http onion and then the code, so in this case it will be 0d69.local, or the much easier way is that we can just type in 192.168.3.1 in our web browser. Excellent. That's now been connected. So up on our web browser, I'm going to type in 192.168.3.1 and then I'm going to press enter. Now, I'm using Google Chrome. It doesn't matter which browser you're using. Now, we need a username and password, and the username and password is the same for all brand new devices. And again, I would strongly suggest that you change these, and we'll be changing them during the setup wizard or at the end of the setup wizard together anyway. Now, I am just going to bring a new tab onto the screen just to make it really easy for you. The username you need is root and the password is Onioneer. So my typing is not great, so I'm just going to go and copy and like so, and let's go back to our other tab. So username is root, and then the password, I'm going to paste the password in there, so it's Onioneer, and then click on login. Fantastic. By the way, you could just carry on using the device like it is. Okay, you don't have to connect to a Wi-Fi access point, and by the way, you can set the Onion Amiga up as an access point as well. Now, what I would suggest, just for straightforward ease, is that you do connect your Onion Amiga to your local Wi-Fi. It just means that you can plug your device anywhere in your office or in your home and then connect to it remotely. And again, that's one of the beauties about this device. So comparing the Onion Amiga to, say, an Arduino, then you would need an Ethernet shield, and running over-the-air updates is quite a challenge to say the least. Even with like the ESP8266s, running the updates is quite a challenge, whereas the Onion Amiga is running Linux, so you can update it remotely. Anyway, I get quite excited, so apologies for that. So coming back to our screen is that you'll see that we've got a detected network. Now, obviously, these details are going to be different for your wireless network, and you may have one or more wireless networks here. So choose an apt one and then enter the Wi-Fi password. A quick note there, if you're not too sure what the Wi-Fi password is, if you grab your router, turn it round, look on the back, and more than likely you'll have the passkey in there. So I know mine off the top of my head, like so, and then we're going to click on Configure Wi-Fi. Now that will take a few moments to go through. Excellent. Now you'll also see that the Onion Amiga is running its updates. Now that's perfectly to be expected. So the Onion Amiga, since I've been and had these, we've gone through 2 or 3 updates already, and that's what you want. You want your Onion Amiga to be at the latest version. Once it's finished, it will reboot. So just see the message on the screen. You say you've successfully set up your Amiga. Please be patient while the Amiga updates and finalizes the configuration. Once completed, the Amiga will reboot automatically. You can now safely exit the setup wizard. Now there is a warning here. Do not power off the device during the update. Now, what you've got on your desk, in fact, let's come back to my desktop, is that what you may see here is that the device looks like it's doing absolutely nothing, but it is running its update. And what we're actually looking for is the yellow LED on board. Now, this isn't going to be a quick process by any means. What we're waiting for is for the Onion Amiga to go and reboot itself. And just like when we first started it up, that yellow LED will start blinking, and then once it's finished and stays on continuously, we know it's been rebooted. So I'm going to be back to you in a few moments time. If you follow me along in this video tutorial, you might want to go and make a cup of coffee and then come back to it in a few moments. So as I left the office to go and make myself a fresh cup of coffee, the onboard LED started to blink really quickly, and then it slowed down to like what we saw the first time around, just blinking once every second or so. So I just left it running its update, and now the yellow LED is on continuously. So if we jump back to our screen, we'll still see the Onion Amiga setup wizard with a spinny circle. Now obviously that's been finished, so let's go back and reconnect to our Onion Amiga. And let's go and click on connect. Wait for that to finish. Excellent, that's gone through much more quickly this time. And back on our web browser, I'm just going to click in the address bar and press enter. This looks a little bit more exciting now. So where we've got the username, we need to change that to root, and we also need to enter our password. And remember, the default username and password for the Onion Amiga is root and Onioneer. So let's go and click on login, and welcome to the console for the first time. So let's just get ourselves acquainted with the console. It's really straightforward. You'll see that you've got apps in your console. So we've got an editor, GPIO, so that's general purpose input output tool. We've got the OLED controls, so if you've been and purchased one of the little OLED screens which you can get from the Onion store, you can control it from the console. You've got your PWM control for servos. You've got a relay control. You've got a really handy resistor calculator. I did wonder personally, why is there a resistor calculator in here? But then when I had one of the resistors, I wasn't too sure, and one of the kids had been and borrowed the multimeter. I was able to quickly work that out. So a handy little tool. Your settings are in the cog icon. You also have status, and you also have access to a terminal here as well. Also, there's another option up here in the top right hand corner. Again, remember where it says Omega and then you've got 0D69, that's the device ID for my Onion Amiga. However, that's going to be different for yours. And you'll also see that you've got an option to log out, shut down, or restart up here. So let's have a look at some of the options which we've got here. And I'll tell you what, let's start on the left hand side and work our way through. So the first tool which we've got is the editor. Now, I do and do not like the editor, and there's two reasons for that. Number one, it's great. You can quickly jump into your www directory, maybe go in and make some changes. You can create new files and so on and so forth. It's great for editing files which have already been created. However, if you do create a file, then just be aware that that file will have a permission of 0600, and you'll want to go back in and change those file permissions or on that file or files which you've been and created later. So to get back to our dashboard, we just click on editor in the top left hand corner and we're back on our console. We've got the GPIO tool, so you'll see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 GPI pins which we can access on here. If we click on a pin, so let's choose number 7, and we can change whether it's an input or an output and what its value is right now. So you can force the value, say, down to 0, for example, and then sync it with the board. You can also change the board layout, so we're using the expansion dock, or it could just be the bare bones Amiga board itself, and then the picture changes on there. But we're using the expansion dock, so we can change that back from the top right hand corner. Now you'll also notice down here at the bottom, we can jump between apps very quickly using the icons at the bottom. I do find this very, very useful. So let's go back to the dashboard. You've got the OLED control. Now obviously you would need the OLED expansion dock plugged in on top. Okay, and again, hence why I've got an error message in the top left hand corner. So let's get back. You've got the PWM control. So this is where you can change the pulse width, a modulation frequency for the different pins. Again, you require the expansion dock for that one. And again, look, down here at the bottom, all the apps are available and you can jump between them as desired. You've got the relay control, and again, let me just move this back up onto the webcam for you. There's the little relay board. It's absolutely tiny. It's not on the same size as the actual Onion Amiga itself. Next, we have the resistor calculator. Again, allows you to choose between 4, 5, and 6 band resistors and choose the colors on them so you can find out the value. We also have the settings, which we'll be looking at in more detail in a few moments. We also have the status, so you can see the current status of the Onion Amiga, so you can see the specifications, you can see the storage. Now, the Onion Amiga does come with 16 meg of onboard RAM. However, when you want to install something maybe like Python or PHP or Node.js or so on, or any kind of extra app onto the Onion Amiga, you are categorically going to need a USB drive. Now, setting these up as root file system on your Onion Amiga is actually really, really easy to do, and if you can manage copy and paste, you can do this because it is just as simple as plugging the drive in to your expansion dock like so, and then following a few basic instructions, and I'll take you through the details of doing that. Now you can also see the MAC address and the other details on there, how many bytes in and out as well. And the last one which we've got, which is very, very handy, is access to a terminal. Now you'll see that we need to log in, so we need to type in root and then onion here. Excellent. And then we've got access to the command line for our or your Onion Amiga. And you can see down here at the bottom, you'll see the different things which we've been and had open. So let's go back and start with the obvious one, which is settings. So I've been and clicked the cog on the right hand side. Now you can name your device. I think 0D69 is pretty cool. Now I'm going to choose the time zone. Now I'm based in the United Kingdom, so I'm looking for London, like so. Now the default password is Onion Ear, and that's published all the way across the internet. So instead of leaving that as the default, I'm actually going to change my password to something else. Very simple, because I'm going to use this one for these tutorials, but I would suggest anything other than Onion Ear. And then click on Save Settings at the bottom, and you'll see that we've got confirmation that our time zone has been changed and also that our password's been changed. Next, we have the Wi-Fi settings. So this is if you wanted to choose a different Wi-Fi network for your Onion Amiga to go and connect to. You can also set your Onion Amiga up as an access point. So this is how we're actually connected to our Onion Amiga right now. And you'll see the AP mode, so access point mode, is enabled. The SSID, the security, which right now is none. Now, I would suggest that you change that to maybe WPA2 and set yourself a password. So I'm going to do that now, like so. And you'll also see the default IP address. And then just a little note here is that if you do click on configure AP, like I'm about to do, is that does mean that we will lose connection to our Onion Amiga and we'll need to reconnect, because obviously we've just now been set a password on a previously unsecured connection. So let's go and reconnect ourselves like so. Just wait for that to reappear within our available networks. Excellent, that's now been and appeared. So let's click on there and we'll need to enter our password, which we just entered. Like so. Next. Yes, and click next. It's just checking the requirements, and we'll need to get ourselves back connected. So once that's finished connecting, we'll go back to 192.168.3.1. Let me just reload the page. Excellent, that's been reconnected and I didn't need to log in. But if you did need to log in again, remember, if you did change your password in settings a few moments ago, that's the password which you would need to use. The other option is on the left hand side is the firmware upgrade, and by just clicking on that section, the firmware upgrade section, is the Amiga will go and check to see if there's any revisions available. Now, we did do an update previously. Now we can see that there is a major version available, so I'm going to click on that, and just like before, we're going to wait for the LEDs, the yellow LED on our board, just to blink. And then once it's finished blinking, it's been rebooted, and then happy days. And remember, you'll need to reconnect accordingly. So I'm going to go and do that right now. If you're seeing an option like upgrade to major or minor version, to be honest, I'd suggest that you go and do it, because you can do it now. And then if you might have that fresh cup of coffee, which you made a few moments ago, to enjoy while it's doing its update. So let's go and click on update major version, and then it will download the latest firmware. And then again, like I said, this will take a few moments. And again, let me just put the Onion Amiga up on your screen for you, up on the webcam, and you'll see that it's blinking away here in the background. So we can see that the device is actually doing something, and we just need to leave it now to go and run its update. So I'll be back to you in a few moments time. Okay, so what I've actually spotted on here is the Amiga has finished blinking its LED. So let me just show you that on the webcam. The yellow LED is on all the time. But if we go back to our screen, it's just hung there saying upgrade major version with a spinny circle, and downloading firmware is just got about halfway through. So it may look like it's been installed, but we can see from the Onion Amiga itself that it has been restarted. So let's go and make sure that we are connected to the device, which we're not. Let's go and connect again. Excellent. And let's refresh our browser page and reconnect. Wait for it to finish. Again, I'm now being asked to log in again, so I'm just going to type in root as your username and then enter the password which you've been in set. Now, if you haven't been in set one, that would be Onion Ear. Just click log in. We remove LastPass. Now, if we go back to settings and then click on firmware upgrade, we should hopefully see that our Onion Amiga Excellent is now on the latest version. Now, obviously, if you see a newer version than what you can see in this video tutorial, obviously there's been a future update. Now, at any point in time, if you do want to do a complete factory restore on your device, the option here is on the left-hand side. Now, in the next video tutorial, what we're going to be looking at is the 3 different ways that we can connect to our Onion Amiga to gain access to the console. So from myself, Matt, I hope this video tutorial has been able to help you. I know it wasn't one of those fast-paced ones where you just get in and do stuff, but I did like to just slow things down for us to see the actual setup for this. And I do hope the tip with a little bit of toilet paper or a bit of paper on top of those pins saves your fingers as well. So I'll see you in the next video tutorial. Cheerios!